Throughout its long history, heavy metal has always had a fair share of influential groups that have kept the generations flowing. From the initials such as Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, and Judas Priest to more recent heroes such as Pantera, Opeth, In Flames, and Lamb of God, there has always been a group that is out there that seems to be influencing the next generation. But here we are in 2016, and we know all about the past, but we're questioning and wondering about the future. What groups that are having big moments in the present are going to be the ones remembered, and the cause and reason that somebody in the future picks up an instrument and decides they wish to start a heavy metal band? So let's take a look at that today. Let's examine 10 current heavy metal bands that are going to be influencing the next generation. And there's a couple of conditions that do apply here. First of which, they have to have an album that was relatively big. Not necessarily a big seller, but highly respected within the genre. Number 2, they need to be relatively new, meaning that their first album has to have come after the turn of the millennium. And finally, they have to be doing something within their genre or subgenre that feels a little bit different, not necessarily just playing by the rules. So let's take a look with number 10, which is Vektor. Now, Vektor's album from 2016, Terminal Redux, is being already hailed as an absolute heavy metal masterpiece, one that may not be able to be touched by other members of the metal universe. Now, my opinions on that will be revealed in December with a top 50 or 100 list, whatever it ends up being. But either way, this group's amalgamation of thrash metal, death metal, progressive metal, and just their own casual exploration into just the weird has certainly provided Vektor with a lot of influential capability for the future. This is something where groups are going to take a look at what this band is able to do and think, you know what, there are ideas that I have that sort of mirror this, but may take things in a different direction. And really that whole witch's brew pot idea is something that you're going to see a lot within this list, considering that has been one of the real trends of heavy metal over the course of the past decade. That sonic exploration has caused a sonic boom, and Vektor here in 2016 is right at the forefront and definitely will be influencing future groups. Number 9, we have Haken, and whenever it comes to progressive metal, you definitely think of the band, Dream Theater. Yeah, that's definitely the first one that comes to mind, but there have been others in the past that have been very, very good, and Haken is one in the present that has showcased their ability to be absolutely magnificent, transformative, and also have the ability to evolve. Based around that idea of progressive metal, and really the progressive adjective in general, has gained a huge bout of popularity. It's one that a lot of bands hope to incorporate into their sounds in order to give it a little bit more diversity. The Mountain is seen as one of the pinnacle albums really thus far within this century, and Haken continues to evolve with their most recent album, Affinity, which will really give those bands that come after them a real reason to explore different layers and different aspects about their personalities. Number 8 is Ghost, and Ghost was nearly omitted from this list considering there's that big old debate out there about whether or not they're truly metal. But they need to be on this list considering their influence will be in what they represent. The rich lore and history of the Papa Emeritus character, and really just their overall presentation whenever it comes to their stage show, as well as with their studio albums, it's what makes them a highly influential group, kind of taking some of the motifs and ideas of old, giving them a wash and an update here in the 20-teens, presenting it extremely well, and they are certainly getting recognized for it. The fact that they won a Grammy Award this past year is absolutely insane. Number 7 is OBLIVISCARUS. Going back to that Witch's Brew formula, this is a group that's able to combine some of the elements that you may see or may have heard from groups such as Agalloch, only giving them a little bit more of a heavy metal exterior, really combining some epic heavy metal alongside of some death metal, some progression, really just some this and that, in order to combine to create something that feels and seems very brand new. Their elongated compositions, mixed with some of their awesome albums such as Citadel, have made this group with the strange name one that has become extremely well recognized by the current generation of heavy metal fans. With each passing person that discovers this group, they are instantly really blown away by what they're able to accomplish, which means that in the future, whenever these folks decide to pick up an instrument and start a band themselves, OBLIVISCARUS could actually become a very large influence on their sound. Number 6, Infant Annihilator. Now this is a group that doesn't get the recognition that it deserves in some capacities, but in others they're going to go down as exceptionally influential and very, very important for heavy metal, especially in its current scene. whenever you hear the word deathcore, whenever you hear death metal, or whenever you hear slam or brutal or this or that, you get some perceptions in mind. You don't exactly get the perception of 17-minute-long tracks. Either that or tracks that certainly push the boundaries of time and space. And Infinite Annihilator is able to take some of these general ideas, ball them together, and make something that is extraordinary. Something that tells a hell of a perverse story, and something that certainly moves you to the point where you are absolutely transfixed. They have a lot of different tools within their toolkits, whether it be a little bit of that technical metal side, or whether it be just those lyrics that make you kind of question humanity. Either way, Infinite Annihilator will be a group that many who listen to them and then opt to start a band will maybe want to emulate a little bit, and really showcase that some of these subgenres truly have no boundaries musically. Number 5, the Faceless. Speaking of technical metal, we have the Faceless, whose album Autotheist was an absolutely massive success. This was a band that certainly was gaining some momentum prior to this, but this was the album that took the world by storm. Now, technical death metal has always had a little bit of viability. Bands such as Necrophragus are still hopeful, or the fans are at least still hopeful, that they will come back and give us another album. But it's a band like the Faceless that's able to constantly deliver seemingly classic after classic, or at least that's the hope of what we get from this band with their much hopeful follow-up, which should come later this year or next year, whatever. Either which way, the Faceless has certainly made technical death metal a really fun place to be once again, and while it's not something that's handled expertly by every band that's out there, it's certainly one where more and more are going to want to get technically proficient on their instruments and wow audiences that way. Number 4, we have Gojira, and this is a recognizable name, especially during the tail end of the 2000s, moving into today, considering their album Magma just dropped a couple of months back. And this is a group that showcases, kind of like Haken, that ability to evolve, really showcasing a sound that doesn't exactly feel all of that different. In fact, it's one that feels like it is, just barely treading water in the heavy metal landscape, but it has such an appeal, and it has such a, really unique sound to it that it gives them a little bit of an edge. Gojira is already a group that is certainly starting to influence some of the more current crops that are out there. It's just not something that's as outwardly, seen, either that or outwardly professed. But this is a band that, as the future continues, it will certainly be one that influences more and more down the line. Number 3 is Deafheaven, and we're seeing this influence, and the influence of one that we're going to be talking about shortly. We're seeing it today. We're seeing it in 2016. We're seeing the rise of, black gaze and post-metal groups. Groups such as ISIS and, Neurosis should be very, very proud of the things that they've been able to accomplish. But here with Deafheaven, it has been sort of this indie darling that has transformed into metal legend already. In the couple of years it's been since its arrival. New Bermuda was able to follow up on that idea kind of nicely, though it's just crazy to see that Deafheaven and bands like it have been able to spawn sort of this movement here in 2016, where it seemed like movements perhaps were an old hat. What more could we possibly do? But here in 2016, with bands such as Astronoid, you're certainly seeing how this influence has pushed forward, and even you can see this within more traditional black metal bands such as Coldwater, which have certainly been able to blend together some of those same ideas, and even those that tread a little bit closer to the traditional black metal with a group such as Harakiri for the Sky. Either way, whether they are the influence in Deafheaven or not, you can definitely see where bands like this, and especially Deafheaven, considering they're the champion name, are going to be influencing metal for years to come. But that brings us to number 2, Alcest. Now this is the group that perhaps spawned the Black Gaze movement, or at least was one of the principal proponents for its popularity. That's a lot of P's. I gotta pee. Either way, Alcest has become a huge commodity, and this is a phenomenal project that showcases that even some of the most ferocious moments of heavy metal can be offset by beauty and transform a composition into something that is absolutely out of this world. Everything that this band has been able to produce feels like it has the potential to be influential, and we're beginning to see some of those seeds really ripen and start to bear fruit as we move forward through the 20-teens. I expect this to only continue and become even more of a massive phenomenon. Now before we get to number 1, I want to touch base with 3 honorable mentions. There are no doubt plenty of groups out there that you're going to tell me about in the comments that could have easily made this list, and perhaps deservingly so. But these three, I feel, could certainly have a huge, huge impact going on down the line. The first of which is Leviathan. They are a tremendous group that certainly has had one of their biggest moments with Scar Sighted last year, and I feel that it can, really push black metal in some brand new directions whenever it comes to just making things that are really sonically off-putting. Baby metal, I just kind of want to include that piss a lot of people off, but actually, in realistic terms, they do belong on this list, considering it could phase in a brand new crop of heavy metal, period, from regions that perhaps would have just maybe a couple of heavy metal bands per square mile, or whatever the fucking quotient is. You could see a real expansion of the genre in areas where it was principally only handled in small doses. And then Cattle Decapitation. This is a tremendous group who got their start in the year 2000, and really as a band they got their start before that, but they're really starting to see the fruits of all of their efforts come here in the 20-teens with albums such as the Anthropocene Extinction, and really albums that have preceded that. But that brings us to number one, and this is the band that I think far and away is certainly going to be influencing a lot down the line, mainly because it's already started, and that's Mastodon. Mastodon is just a massive band, and really all the way up into Crack the Sky they've been highly respected, and really after Crack the Sky, even with their evolution, they've still gained serious acclaim. Maybe that's, fuel right there for a 5 Reasons People Hate Mastodon video, I don't know, but either way, this is a group that has certainly just sort of melted the minds of a lot of music fans over the course of the 2000s and definitely into the 2010s. This is a very popular group that certainly has caused many a person to want to learn the guitar, to learn some of their music, either that or start a band of their own. And if you look at the underground here in 2016, if you look at the underground over the past couple of years, you're sort of noticing an uptick of this sort of sludgy idea of heavy metal that is also combined with traditional ideas, throwing a little bit of progginess, throwing a little bit of that stoner riffage, and just really this effort right here in this band and what they've been able to accomplish has certainly pushed metal forward. It's hard to believe that a long time ago I remember seeing an advertisement for their album Leviathan and thinking, maybe this will work. And now they have become a global phenomenon, a very well-respected band whose next album, in spite of all of the information that's come out about it that may dissuade a couple of people, they're not really dissuaded. Whenever it comes out, it's going to be a massive, massive album. It's going to be one that's going to be consumed by many to see what this band does next. Reinvention is one of the truest ways to really become influential. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, 10 current heavy metal bands that will influence the next generation. If you agree with this list or disagree with it, let me know in the comments below, and tell me which bands were left off of this list that you feel were more, suited to be on it. My name is coverkillernation, and I'll talk to each and every one of you guys next time, where we might go back to the past and look at some influential albums.